Welcome back, family, to another episode where Barbican 2 digs into the word power, the magic, the heck-ah-oo. And today, we got a special one because it is Dyslexia Awareness Month. So we're going to break down the magic word of dyslexia and hopefully give y'all some insights onto what that is, how it's being used, and how you might reverse the magic. So to begin with, this is Dyslexia Awareness Month. And commonly to most people, dyslexia means people who reverse letters or read stuff backwards. If you would have seen it in a commercial, that's probably what you would see. If you talk to your friends in your neighborhood, that's probably what you might hear. But the truth of the matter is, dyslexia is no different than your garden variety reading disability. Really, with difficulties with reading, they come down to not being able to blend, not being able to identify the sounds that the letters make, and not being able to identify the positions of the sounds in a word, the beginning sound, the middle sound, and the end sound. Okay, so if I say cat, and I ask you what's the beginning sound, you should say k. I ask you what's the middle sound, you should say ah, and the last sound you should say t. Now I can do all those assessments without ever looking at what you're reading. Okay, this is just strictly by talking to you and asking you some questions, and that will give me a wealth of knowledge of what you're able to do. And here's a secret one that people really sleeping on, and that's being able to rhyme. If you can rhyme at an early age, it's a good chance that you're going to eventually be able to read. Okay, rhyming is very closely associated with those skills that I talked about earlier: blending, initial, final, and middle sound fluencies. So if you're thinking about possibly having you or your child assessed for dyslexia, you might want to see if they can do those things first, and that will answer a lot of your questions, okay, especially if they're a struggling reader. But let's dig a little bit deeper into it. In the state of California, it wasn't even considered a disability in schools to have dyslexia because it had been so popularized and bastardized that dyslexia came to mean something that it did not. Namely, you reversing letters, you reversing words. When the truth of the matter is, people reverse letters and words probably up until the age of 9 or 10, and that by itself does not indicate dyslexia or the inability to read. What it just indicates is lack of practice writing those letters over and over again, facing the right directions. And I got another surprise for you. If I was reading a language like the Medu Neter or Japanese or Chinese where they use characters, all this would just disappear. It would just all cease to exist. Why? Because when you have a phonetic language, that means that you put the letters together or the symbols together and they have sounds attached to them, you have a lot of room for error. But when you put a symbol in front of somebody and that symbol has meaning to it in itself, you have less of a chance of having those mix-ups that come with phonics. So Japanese, Chinese, anybody who reads in characters, they have a higher literacy rate because they're not dealing with phonemic awareness, especially if you're dealing with Spanish or English or anything that uses the Greek alphabet. That's because English is so irregular. You have irregular spellings, you have silent E's, you have rules for vowels, you have diphthongs such as TH. Is it supposed to be t, or is it supposed to be th? That's confusing. Reading is hard. It's a reason why reading was reserved only for the highest levels in medieval and ancient times. So priests, royalty, people up in high society, only their children and them would be able to get the instruction on reading, and not necessarily because they were trying to keep information from everybody, but because reading is so laborious. More people are probably unable to read a phonetic language than are able to read, because think about what your brain got to do. I have to look at these symbols. I have to remember all of them. I have to remember that they have sounds to go with them. I have to remember the irregular spellings. I got to remember all these rules that come with them if they're placed in various parts of the word. Now I have to put it all together fluently, try to retrieve meaning from all that. And then once I'm able to put it together fluently, try to extract some meaning from the text. So all of that together is difficult. And you are asking second, third, first graders, kindergartners to do this, and then getting mad when they can't do it. You getting frustrated when they can't do it. They crying doing their homework. You crying when they doing their homework. Everybody frustrated, and it's just an absolute nightmare. You can avoid all that by just understanding a little bit about reading, how we come to read, and number one, how difficult reading is in the beginning. So don't go so hard on them. Be patient. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and they're going to get it on their own time and own accord. And if phonics is not kicking in, then maybe you might want to do some whole word recognition, where you're just looking at sight words and you're trying to do rote memorization. Yeah, phonics is probably the best way, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't benefit from doing some whole word instruction. Now that we done got that out the way, let's dip into the magic. So let's break this word down. People say, okay, dyslexia means reversing letters and words. If that was the case, the magic would say something like that. So, we using the Greek and Latin language for a lot of our magic, also the Medu Neter, also Hebrew and Arabic. But for this particular one, we got two Greek words for you, dys and lexia. Now, if it was just about reversing letters and words, you would have something different, meaning going backwards. It would be called like retrolexia or retrolexic, backwards words, backwards reading. Okay, but that's not what it's called. It's dyslexia, dyslexic. Dys meaning not, Greek origin meaning not, negate. It's the negative, okay? So you're not able to do something. It is not that. It is dys. You're getting dissed. It's dysfunctional. It's disrespectful. It's not. Lexic. Lexic is coming from modern Latin, but from medieval Greek. And lexic, attached to legere, means words, or books, or logos, the idea, the spoken idea, the phrase. So what you're really talking about when you're saying dyslexia is not words, not speaking, not phrasing, no ideas. I have no idea. Okay, dyslexia literally means no idea. It means not able to have words. Okay, so now we can see that's a little bit different than what we were talking about earlier, when we talked about the retrolexia, retrolexic. Okay, so the magic is saying you just don't have the words, you don't have an idea of what's going on, where how we use it today is saying you're reversing letters, you're reversing words, and that's the problem. No, no, no. Remember, the problem is blending, the problem is phonics, the problem is fluency, even vocabulary. The more vocabulary you have, the better you are to identify words that are unfamiliar to you. Also, being able to read nonsense words and read them fluently is another key. So you're getting a wealth of knowledge on what dyslexia is and what it is not. Not only on the surface, but also the magic, the hidden parts of it, the dyslexia, the non-words, the unable to identify the words. So that's what we're really talking about here. And once again, this is Dyslexia Awareness Month. So hopefully you have become more aware about what dyslexia is, the prevalence of it, how to fix it, okay? Teaching rhyming, teaching those initial, middle, and final sound fluency, showing them those phonics, showing people the sounds that the letters make. That is worth your attention. That is worth your time and effort. Worrying about having somebody write their letters facing the right way. I want your E's to be facing right instead of left. I want your B's to be facing right instead of left, and I want your D's to be facing left instead of right. Don't worry about that, okay? Spend your time on the things we just talked about, and everything else will be just fine. If you're still having problems, reach out to Bobby Ken too, and he will definitely help you to get back on track where you need to be. So you can be lexic so you can have words, so you can have ideas, so you can have books. A lot of information. You might be saying, well, Baba Kintu, what makes you a specialist in this? Well, in California, I happen to write the position paper on dyslexia with the California Association of School Psychologists. So this is not something I have just read up on and then decided to talk to y'all about. This has been years and years of study and implementing interventions to reverse the dyslexia. So speaking from the heart, speaking this logos, this lexic, straight from the heart, just like we do on the Shabaka stone. So once again, this is Baba Kintu's Words of Power, the magic. Today we talked about dyslexia, not having the words, and hopefully you can go out and make the people lexic. I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. Much love.